Imagine a major European democracy, a nation deeply woven into the fabric of the European Union, entrusting the stewardship of its most sensitive surveillance and wiretap data to a Chinese technology giant. This sounds like the plotline of a best-selling espionage thriller or the opening scene of a blockbuster political drama, but this is not fiction. This is the current reality unfolding in Spain. Why would a nation at the heart of Europe, with a long tradition of valuing civil liberties and transparency, hand over the management of its judicial surveillance data, the digital crown jewels, to a company repeatedly identified as an extension of Chinese state power? Is this a bold step toward pragmatic innovation, or a ticking time bomb threatening Europe's digital sovereignty? Let's unpack the story, the stakes, and what it could mean for the future of technology and democracy across the continent and beyond. Let's rewind to the beginning. In early 2024, the Spanish Ministry of the Interior awarded a contract worth more than 14 million United States dollars, equivalent to over 12 million euros, to Huawei, the controversial Chinese technology titan, to manage and store data obtained through judicial wiretaps. This is not just about buying generic servers off the shelf. Spain is placing its trust in Huawei's OceanStor 6800 V5 data storage systems to classify, organize, and protect intelligence painstakingly gathered by its law enforcement and security agencies. This contract is not a one-off event. It continues a years-long partnership, with Huawei providing essential technical support to SITEL, Spain's sophisticated telecommunications interception system that serves as the nerve center for the country's surveillance operations. But here is where the story gets tangled. Huawei is not just another global vendor competing for contracts on a level playing field. Its international reach is deeply intertwined with the political and legal realities of Beijing. Under Chinese law, companies like Huawei are required to collaborate with the state's security services. The counter-espionage law and the national intelligence law both have sweeping provisions, compelling Chinese companies, wherever they operate, to provide data, technical support, and even active assistance in surveillance activities when called upon by authorities. As James Lewis of the Center for Strategic and International Studies notes, the United States is increasingly convinced that China's legal framework compels its technology companies to act as extensions of the state security apparatus. These are not just theoretical risks. History has already provided cautionary tales. In 2018, journalists from France's Le Monde newspaper uncovered that for 5 consecutive years, confidential data from the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, where Huawei was the principal IT supplier, was surreptitiously uploaded every night to servers located in Shanghai. Huawei denied any wrongdoing, but the incident left a lingering cloud of suspicion over the company's commitments and the potential for hidden backdoors. European cybersecurity agencies, from ENISA to the national authorities of the Five Eyes Alliance, have raised the alarm. The European Parliament, particularly its Committee on Industry, Research and Energy, is championing tighter screening of foreign technology investments and pushing for a unified, pan-European approach to digital security. Yet Europe finds itself in a bind. Replacing all Huawei infrastructure across the continent would cost, according to some estimates, up to 65 billion United States dollars, a sum that could fund several years of ambitious technology development or public services. For Spain, the choice is especially acute. The country has a long-standing relationship with Chinese suppliers and faces budgetary pressures that make the low price and advanced features of Huawei's offerings hard to resist. Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, faces a similar dilemma. Its deep economic ties to China, especially in manufacturing and exports, create a constant tug-of-war between security concerns and financial realities. Thorsten Benner of the Global Public Policy Institute puts it bluntly. Germany's hedging strategy on Huawei reflects the inherent tension between its economic dependence on China and its commitment to transatlantic security. This debate is not merely technical or economic, it's deeply emotional, touching the core values of privacy, democracy, and national independence. Human rights organizations, such as Article 19, have issued urgent statements calling on Spain to immediately suspend all cooperation with Huawei and to launch a thorough, independent human rights impact assessment. Their argument is stark. By integrating Chinese technology into critical law enforcement functions, Spain, and by extension, any European nation, risks normalizing censorship, surveillance, and rights abuses. This could set a precedent that undermines not only the European Union's own digital rights values, but also its position as a global advocate for a rules-based digital order grounded in democracy and the rule of law. Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has emerged as a staunch defender of Huawei's ongoing presence in Spain. He has welcomed the opening of Huawei research centers in Madrid, and he has openly challenged the European Union's calls for a blanket ban on so-called high-risk suppliers from fifth-generation, or 5G, networks. For Spain, the calculus is not just about security, it is about cost savings, rapid technological innovation, and the nation's geopolitical positioning in a world where digital infrastructure is the new battleground. Sanchez's government is betting that the benefits of cooperation, cheaper, faster, and more advanced technology, outweigh the potential risks. But is this a sound bet or a dangerous roll of the dice? Let's dig deeper into the mechanics of the risk. Spanish intelligence experts, speaking anonymously, have voiced well-founded fears that Huawei's role could lead, even inadvertently, to the exposure of sensitive investigations to Chinese state actors. This is not mere speculation. The technical architecture of modern data storage systems is complex, and the presence of so-called backdoors, hidden vulnerabilities that could allow remote access has been documented in several cases. CrowdStrike, a leading cybersecurity firm, recently uncovered a malware campaign dubbed Crimson Dragon, targeting Huawei routers and switches. Intelligence assessments from the Five Eyes countries, an alliance of the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, have intensified information sharing on the risks posed by Chinese telecom vendors. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre reported in 2019 that Chinese laws could effectively compel anyone in China to do anything to support state security organs. These warnings are echoed by the European Union Agency for Cybersecurity, ENISA, which has flagged the weaponization of fifth-generation supply chains and urged member states to diversify their technology vendors. The Spanish government is not blind to these risks. In its national cybersecurity strategy for the years 2024 through 2029, the protection of critical infrastructure is a top priority. The 2025 budget allocates increased funding to Spain's National Intelligence Center, or CNI, specifically to bolster cybersecurity capabilities. The government is also reviewing its regulations to comply with the European Union's updated NIS2 directive, which aims to tighten security across digital networks and services. Meanwhile, the European Commission is developing a pan-European certification framework for fifth-generation network components, hoping to set common standards and reduce vulnerabilities. Still, the fundamental tension remains. Can Spain or any European democracy truly safeguard its most sensitive data while relying on a technology partner whose ultimate loyalty is compelled by the laws and political priorities of Beijing? Or is this a calculated risk, a pragmatic decision in an era when the lines between economic partnership and strategic vulnerability have never been so blurred? As Spain accelerates its investments in intelligence, cybersecurity, and next-generation networks, the stakes have never been higher. The answer is complex. There are no easy solutions or clear-cut villains, but one fact is undeniable. Europe, once a bystander in the global technology race, now stands at the epicenter of a fierce tug-of-war, with the eyes of the world fixed on its choices. What happens if the worst-case scenario occurs? If a security breach exposes Spanish wiretap data, or if European Union pressure forces a sudden reversal in technology policy, is Spain ready to bear the costs and consequences? Let's explore the possible futures shaping Europe's digital landscape. Let's first imagine a scenario in which Spain's gamble sets a precedent for the continent. Suppose, a few years down the line, a breach is revealed. A leak that shows confidential Spanish security data quietly making its way from Madrid to Shanghai, echoing the precedent set at the African Union. Such a revelation would not only be a national scandal, but would trigger a crisis of confidence across the European Union. Governments would scramble to tighten regulations, public trust in digital infrastructure would erode, and the cost of replacing suspect equipment would skyrocket. The estimated $65 billion United States dollars needed to swap out Huawei gear across Europe would become an unavoidable bill, diverting resources from other vital priorities. Ambitious technology initiatives, such as the European Union's digital single market or its plans for sovereign cloud infrastructure, could be delayed by years, if not decades. But the risks extend far beyond the technical and financial. According to intelligence sources, ongoing investigations involving organized crime, terrorism, or even transnational repression could be jeopardized if sensitive data is exposed to foreign actors. Witnesses, undercover agents, and cooperative partners might be put in harm's way. International law enforcement collaboration could suffer, as partners hesitate to share information with a system perceived as compromised. In an era defined by rising geopolitical tension, where cyber attacks disinformation campaigns, and economic espionage are daily realities. Spain's critical infrastructure could become a bargaining chip or even a tool in the hands of adversaries. The stakes are not just about espionage, they are about national security, public safety, and the integrity of democratic institutions. On a European level, the fallout could be even more profound. If Spain's example persuades other countries to prioritize short-term savings over long-term security, the very concept of European digital sovereignty could fracture. Imagine a Fortress Europe scenario. The European Union, alarmed by mounting evidence of risk, enacts sweeping legislation to ban or strictly regulate foreign technology vendors. It establishes a centralized agency to enforce compliance, channels massive investments into domestic technology champions, and seeks to reduce reliance on both American and Chinese suppliers. The price tag for such a transformation would be immense, and the political battles intense. Yet, some argue this might be the only path toward true autonomy in the digital age, a necessary correction after years of strategic complacency. Alternatively, the world might move toward what analysts call technological bipolarity. The United States and China, each with their own technology ecosystems, create competing spheres of influence. Europe, caught in the middle, faces relentless pressure to pick sides, fragmenting the global technology landscape. This splintering could see incompatible networks, divergent standards, and rising costs for businesses and consumers alike. Cross-border innovation could slow, and the internet as a unified global commons could be replaced by a patchwork of walled gardens. There is, however, a third path: pragmatic coexistence. In this scenario, Huawei and other foreign vendors remain present in European telecommunications, but only under the strictest oversight. They must submit to independent testing, regular audits, and rigorous risk assessments. The European Union is already moving in this direction, pushing for a harmonized cybersecurity framework, enhanced investment screening, and the development of homegrown alternatives. As Eva Kaili, a member of the European Parliament, warns, "We need a unified strategy, not a patchwork. Fragmentation is our biggest security risk." In this future, transparency, accountability, and technological agility become the cornerstones of resilience. What does all this mean for you, the viewer, the citizen, the consumer of digital services? First, the Spanish story is a warning shot for every democracy at the crossroads of technological progress and political risk. Every country will eventually face similar dilemmas. The lure of affordable, advanced technology from foreign giants, set against the invisible strings of geopolitical dependency. The debate in Spain is a mirror reflecting urgent questions. What are we willing to trade for cost savings or faster innovation? Are our values negotiable when budgets are tight? How much trust can we afford to place in partners whose legal obligations may conflict with our own security needs? Second, Europe's experience offers a cautionary tale about the far-reaching impact of technology choices. Decisions made in government offices and boardrooms can echo through society for decades, shaping everything from personal privacy to economic competitiveness, from national security to global influence. The lessons from Spain, Germany, and the broader European Union are clear. Transparency, independent risk assessments, and a commitment to democratic oversight are essential safeguards. Without them, the hidden costs of convenience could be devastating. And here's a crucial fact you might not hear on the evening news. Spain's gamble is not just about today's wiretaps or the secrets of a single police investigation. It is about who will control the next generation of information highways, the digital arteries of the 21st century. It is about who builds the infrastructure, who owns the data, and, ultimately, who gets to listen in. In the digital age, the boundaries between economic partnership and strategic vulnerability have never been so thin, and the consequences of getting it wrong have never been so dire. If Spain's bet on Huawei backfires, the real danger is not just a single act of espionage or a dramatic scandal. The greater threat is the slow erosion of trust between governments, within the European Union, and with citizens who expect their freedoms to be protected. Once trust is lost, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild. Europe must decide. Will it lead with principle and unity, or will it settle for short-term gains at the expense of long-term security and integrity? What can ordinary people do in the face of such complex, high-stakes decisions? First, stay informed. Ask questions about who supplies the technology in your schools, hospitals, and government offices. Demand transparency from your elected officials. Support calls for independent risk assessments and meaningful oversight, not just rubber-stamp certifications. Get involved in the public debate and make your voice heard. Second, recognize that digital sovereignty is not just a buzzword for diplomats and policymakers. It is a shared responsibility. The choices we make today about infrastructure, standards, and partnerships will shape the digital future for generations. Whether you are a business owner, a student, a parent, or a policymaker, your awareness and engagement matter. Third, remember that the challenge is not unique to Europe. Countries around the world, from Brazil to India, from South Africa to Canada, are grappling with similar choices. The lessons from Spain are global. In an interconnected world, the price of complacency is vulnerability. The reward for vigilance is resilience. Before we wrap up, let's consider the broader historical context. This is not the first time that new technologies have forced societies to confront uncomfortable trade-offs. In the 19th century, the telegraph revolutionized communications, but raised new questions about privacy and state surveillance. In the 20th century, the spread of radio and television brought new opportunities and new risks of propaganda and control. Today, the fifth-generation revolution, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things are transforming our world at lightning speed. But the central dilemma endures. How do we harness the power of innovation without sacrificing the values that define us? So what is your view? Should Europe draw a hard line with foreign technology suppliers, enforcing strict bans and prioritizing homegrown solutions, even at significant cost? Or is cautious collaboration, anchored by transparency and robust oversight, the smarter path in a complex, interdependent world? The debate is far from settled, and the next big decision may be closer to home than you think. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe for more deep dives on the collision of technology, economics, and geopolitics. And remember, in the digital age, the choices we make, individually and collectively, will determine the shape of our societies for decades.